Why are you like this? Hello, my name is Simon Tracer. Welcome to another Science Me video. Today we're talking about the idea of the fact that you could eat something that is so similar in genetics to you that it's actually not suggested that you do so. Normally we think of species within our own genus and we don't consider the idea possible when referring to other animals. But there are some parts of animals that are just basically as similar to us, like the heart, maybe, or the digestive system, or I don't know, skin cells and whatnot, that it's possible that by eating certain cells from certain animals, we are more likely to have certain cancers. I ended up making a comment on a Kurzgesagt video talking about it just now, where the idea struck me as something I have never really talked about, maybe even in my previous life or channel. So I'm talking about it now, as it's present in my mind. Things like pig intestines and the idea that wrapping sausages in pig intestines is a good way to keep bacteria out, but when you get it home, you might want to take that wrapping off. Now, I don't know whether or not they're using pig intestines anymore, or now it's some kind of other thing, which hopefully it is, but people say other types of chemicals are triggering with cancers, which is possibly the other thing. The video I saw was why blue whales don't get cancer. The Petos Pet, Petos paradox. PETO paradox. Anyway, so the idea is that large animals simply just don't get cancer. They don't have the problem of it. And the main reason for, I think, what it is that, like, altogether, the types of cancer you can get and the places that you can get it, and the majority um, size of the body part that gets the cancer versus the size that is required to keep that body part moving and working, like colon or lungs or whatever, is different depending on the different size of species. So it might be more advantageous to just get rid of that section and regrow and do some basic, like, in-house surgery with the nervous system and immune system doing their job to orchestrate that. And so you don't end up with cancer as a big thing because you can afford to get rid of the stuff. In smaller animals, such as ourselves, unfortunately, we don't have such a luxury. When you have cancer on something, um, there's a much bigger chance that even if it's not a vital system, the body might think that it's important to keep that part of it alive, even if it's just especially if it's just structural, like in a breast or something. It literally has nothing better to do it. It's technically not causing harm, so the body might want to not give a damn if it has to kill it. When it's something that's more important, like your heart, a lot more redesign and reconstruction could take place. So like it all depends on how the body responds to things, how often each part of the body regenerates itself. And I'm moving my hand in a meaningful way in a place that's outside of the camera view. Why? Anyway, so yeah, we end up with different cancers, different ways. The thing I notice is that bigger animals are most likely to never consume anything that is similar genetically to something that is them. So, like how you got giraffes and they mostly eat plants. So, no connection whatsoever. They can't get those random cells giving the whatever it is that causes their genetic cells to do their thing. So, like, it'd be interesting to know that if there is some kind of weird stuff in plants that would cause cancer in giraffes, that would be um, informative. Anyway, the idea of having cancer as a giraffe is just weird. And I would say the whole thing altogether is just, it's just a bit crazy because you think about if what if it only takes certain chemicals that are in your body, and all you have to do is avoid those chemical compounds, and you will not get cancer in your life. Well, that's not true either, because all it takes, apparently, is for the DNA of the cell to be messed with. And that has to do with the regulatory system. And that has to do with absolutely nothing about diet and things. Although it might be possible that there are chemicals that they say are contributing factors to cancer. Like, the more damage you have, the less likely your body is able to just regenerate itself normally. So when you have damaged lung so much, then lung cancer is very likely. So by damaging it a lot over the course of so many years and whatever, you're way more likely to get lung cancer. And that makes sense. So why do people smoke? I don't know. They don't think about the fact that it would be a lot easier if they just had some other way of dealing with their niches, their security blanket or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. It's not something you need. Trust me. You don't need to smoke. Don't ever do it. If you've never smoked, don't do it. Please. And if you are smoking, please try to stop. Your life is actually meaningful. Come on. I mean, there's other things, and the more I think about it, the more odd it is. But it makes me want the interspecies cannibalism type stuff makes me concerned. Like they talk about processed foods being a big problem causing cancers, but I'm like, what if it's not processed food? What if we're supposed to be eating stuff like deer or animals that have different genetic spectrums than anything close to us? And if we just choose to eat those animals and grow them at farms and like good or okay living conditions and whatever else, and we just never think about um we just move away from the animals that could be triggering cancers. But at the same time, vegans, they don't eat animals whatsoever. They can get cancer anyway. So it's like the the idea is like, does it matter? And then like what are the chances and what are the risks? What are all of the probabilities of issues happening, like cell division and cell multiplication, whatever else, as it changes, then, or as it grows and divides and does its thing, then it has the chance of something going wrong in that cell or whatever else. And so it's like trying to battle cancer is like as a complete concept in reality. At the moment, I don't have a lot of um, like all the information that has been that there's so much information I could be gathering and telling you, and then be able to give you like proper stuff. But I just think about, hey, has anyone ever talked about eating certain animals can cause cancer? So how much should we be avoiding that? Two things. One, don't eat raw meat, probably. Cook that crap. But even if it's cooked, there's a chance that there might be something in there. But it's like, you never know. But if that's not the only factors, then like, of course, definitely make sure, keep looking for all of the factors. Don't ever stop. Never stop, never stopping. Like, just make sure that we keep on actually finding the causes for this. It's like, what if it's just random and natural, right? The weird thing is, like, what if um cancer cell, like they say that there's one cancer cell of all the cells in your body, it's like a kill switch. That's like, if there's something wrong with you, then your body is just going to want to end you. Um, and that doesn't make sense because there's lots of people like Technoblade and whoever else who had cancer, and they totally deserve to keep existing. Um, he passed away, and I would rather that not have happened. So, yeah. So it does nuts and stuff. Um, yeah. So the idea is that, like, in the battle of the things, have we talked about this as a possibility? Is it a contributing factor? And all that. And I literally have done no research before making this video. I just said out there, is there anything about this? And it's like, um, I talk about nitrites and stuff. But I genuinely think, like, what if we found out that um, certain cells that are inside other animals' bodies, like, we just should not be eating whatsoever? So, like, but I can't give you any advice because I have no information. All I can think of is the example of, what if the pig intestine lining is used to make the sausages and then you eat that and you get colon cancer, more likely. It's not like a guarantee or anything. And I don't have any actual information, but I'm like just positing the question out there. What if that's a thing? And then that's the only example I can think of. What are all the other examples that I'm not thinking of, such as stuff to do with chickens, because chickens, they have a really low lifespan and all of these things. Generations go really quickly. It's possible that chickens can have all sorts of problems. Is there any problem with chicken? Is there any problem with other animals? And the other thing is, you would think that an animal that gets older and older would have more and more cancers, but like, even they said in the Kurzgesagt video, like, elephants don't even seem to get cancers, which is like their volume and size. You would think that there would be less, there would be a larger percentage of it. Like, if it's a systemic thing, then wouldn't it? But also, that you have to understand, larger animals have a larger amount of nervous system cells. So like the all the stuff that you can do to make your body react and give you like whenever something goes wrong, your body can like properly diagnose it, properly attack it, and afford to to send like a ton of um, cells to just literally commit suicide around an area to destroy cancer cells if they want to, and like just obliterate the area and then grow back better cells. Um, it's much more likely to have that happen. Like cancer in animals that are so big might actually present more as um, scar tissue instead of actual cancer because the cancer's already been dealt with. But what if you could find out about that scar tissue? But you'd have to analyze like pretty much every square millimeter of an animal, which visually is not easy to do and stuff, and you literally have to cut it up and everything. It's gross, whatever. But it's like um who cares? It's the job. It's the way you do it. I might change the title of this video, but I just think of the idea that if there is something out there that's similar to us, then we know eating our own species makes cancers. We know that there are other animals out there that have cannibalistic tendencies, like certain ants and other things. All sorts of animals that have those kinds of tendencies, and yet, like, do they end up with the same neurological problems that we end up with if we try eating human flesh? Like, and how much of it do you have to actually end up eating before you end up with cancers? And not like I'm saying potentially consider eating human flesh. I'm saying like consider avoiding a lot of stuff. Or the best thing, hey, change up your diet if that's a factor. Like if it was a significant enough factor, you'd think we would know it by now and whatever. But I would say definitely consider changing up your um change up your diet. Like don't eat only fish. Don't eat I mean, well, I don't know. Just a varied diet is helpful. So like not having like just a ton of the same stuff from the same places. Like I know you really like the chicken from KFC, but maybe eat chicken from somewhere else every so often. Or I don't know, try other meats. Or like, you know, just try all sorts of stuff. Try tofu. Like people eating hamburgers all the time. Like if cows are not similar to us whatsoever when it comes to the stuff that we're putting into the hamburgers, then they might be perfectly fine to eat all the time, whatever, I don't know. But apparently not. I remember there was some study about some parts of health issues related to eating cows like way too much. But it depends. I mean, it depends on if it's well cooked. It depends if it's um, all of the things you can think of. Like, there was one time where I hear about this stupid idea, this absolutely idiotic idea of having one bull inseminate, like, provide the sperm that inseminated all the different cows from the entire area or country, like, yeah, one bull might have a lot of viable sperm, so you just get the sperm from the one, and then you just make all the rest of the cows suddenly have that one bull be the daddy. That's called inbreeding after some generations of that, which can cause problems and defects and stuff, and more likely to cause problems when the stuff that's eating that stuff. So it's like, that's not good. Let's not do that. Get yourself a different set of bulls. Like, even inside of one's own, even inside the same farm, you should have different um but it's like, that was a crazy dumb thing that people did. Was like, oh, we'll just take this stuff and we'll put it in all the different cows. We'll get cows that are all from the no, because the more the more similar the genetics is, you realize the more likely there are going to be problems. So like, you don't want to have that kind of situation, and definitely not have that kind of situation in your food chain. You would think. But then, like, you gotta think of all the animals that are like eating a bunch of ants. They're all the same ants, so would you eat an anteater? It's like, I don't know. And or stuff about bears eating fish. Would you eat bears? Oh, I don't know. And giraffe, whatnot. Um, Yeah, it'd be crazy sad if we ended up having to start eating giraffes just because it helps us avoid cancer. Because everything else is too similar. Um, I don't know. But like, um, yeah, weird. I don't have too much else to talk about with this video. It's just like just throw out the idea and the concept and it's my name, concept Viperion. So I'm like, um, yeah. I wish the thing about questions like this is that it would be a lot better if I did the research first to tell you, like, and the problem is I would have to do like tons of research to know whether or not this is a thing, and like, whatever. But besides that, I mean, there's tons of other stuff that I've talked about in videos that's like, maybe I knew that it closed if I left it. Um, there's all sorts of stuff that I've talked about that's like, besides this one thing that I haven't actually gotten expertise on. Like, I've talked about all sorts of stuff in Science Me playlist. Go check that out. It's interesting. There's tons of stuff there. And there's stuff like, recently I talked about, have I talked about it? No, I said it in passing. There's this um video talking about a mechanism of using just different, like, even a 14-pound weight, and they're saying they're experiencing gravity from this tiny little weight, right? It's just like this ball that you would throw at the Olympics or whatever, is how heavy it is and how big it is and stuff. And yet that thing has a gravitational force that is able to affect stuff nearby. And so my question is, one, that's a passive mode of motion. Why don't you utilize that in some way to make, I don't know, make some kind of engine the way I would do it if I had to, if I wanted to. Because it is a system that can, and the thing is, you're using an external power source, you're using gravity. No, you don't understand. They're using just a ball. It's not the gravity of the planet that's doing the job. It is the ball itself having gravitational forces itself. Like just you're a heavy thing, right? Apparently you yourself are enough that we can make gravitational force attraction with your body. And I'm like, wait, how does, what? Really? Something like really tiny, right? Being influenced by something that's literally, like I said, just 14 kilograms. That's not much. Um, like a sandbag moving something just because it exists there. That how hard, the only thing I would think of, right? You put in like I've heard of Steve Mold, and he has these syringes full of air made of glass, and it's like a frictionless bearing. So you put the how do you do it? You put you put the apparatus on one of those so that you have the big item attract a very small item. And what happens is, as the small item is pulled towards the big item, the pull of the twisting motion on the top is converted into the motion that pushes very gently um, on the ball itself to make it move, causing a feedback system. And it would take a while, and it would take a lot. But the thing is, you could make a machine that is big, right? It would have a bigger gravitational function, and with the levitating stuff happening and whatever else, you could be able to make it so that um, like let's say you have um, 10 tons weight dangling from something. You'd think the gravity of that would be strong enough that you'd be able to move a significant weight, and then the idea of the frictionless bearing um, still holds true. And then all you have to do is have it so that when the one thing moves towards the big thing, then you have a certain amount of force pulling that, right? It's kind of measured as a force, which is like, I really genuinely wonder why, um, why it seems to be the case. But here's the thing. What they did was they dangled the weight that they're trying to move towards the big thing. They dangled the small thing, trying to move towards the big thing. They waited until it was totally stationary, and it doesn't move for like a whole day. It just stays there. So then introduce the big thing, and you end up with it moves towards the big thing. So that means if you can do that, continuously, then you have continuous power. Simply by the fact that there is a big thing and a small thing, an apparatus with very little friction. This would work really well in space, by the way. This would work extremely well in space. And then, well, how are you gaining power out of this? Who cares? You can make a vast array of these free energy systems. You could be making like even if you're making 1 volt of power, um, or 1 joule of power per second or something, that's not a lot. Or 1 joule of power per hour, or whatever. Don't quote me on power and per second ratios stuff. You get it. Like megawatt hours, all of that. Let's say you're not making a lot of power from this system, but you could have those systems all over the place. And then you have just a bunch of orbiting stuff. Now here's the thing, right? Here's the real kicker, is that gravitational assist, right? If you start moving the object and then it's actually going to sling around the big object so that it ends up being assisted and moving faster now. And then it's sent off to another big object with its own gravitational force that pulls it in and has that amount of assist again. That can be a repeating system. It can go around and it goes around faster and faster, or continuously. But also add on to the fact that the big objects are moving, and like just, maybe ignore wind resistance stuff by having a vacuum idea. And you could literally be having this thing run with incredible efficiency. And I shouldn't be talking about it in this video. It should be a separate video. However, I can divide videos in half. So yeah, perpetual motion, cannibalism, it's all science. Toodles!